She is the president of Southeast Kentucky Community and Technical College. He is the director of media and communications at the college and a familiar face here at WYMT. Dr. Lynn Moore and Brandon Robinson are our guests tonight on Issues and Answers, the Mountain Edition.
Issues and Answers, the Mountain Edition, is sponsored by the City of Hazard. Come home to the mountains.
Dr. Lynn Moore and Brandon Robinson with Southeast Kentucky Community and Technical College. Thank you both for being with us today.
Thank you,
Brandon,
Steve.
welcome back home.
Thanks, sir.
and Dr. Moore, this is your first time on Issues and Answers, so
Yes,
welcome.
thank you.
Now, I know you've been at Southeast for about 2 years now.
Yes.
But for those not familiar with you, why don't you tell me a little bit about your background?
Well, I'm an Alabama native, so I was born in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, Roll Tide.
There you go.
And grew up in North Alabama.
Okay.
So worked in Texas, worked in Oregon, and very happy to be back in this part of the world.
So this is your first job in Kentucky?
Yes, it is.
Okay. And why did you want to take this job?
Well, I've trained and been experienced in college administration for quite a few years, and I was looking for a great opportunity to serve as a president of a college, and found this to be a wonderful area. Love the mountains, love the people here, and I'm very happy to be here.
Well, my next question was going to be, what have been your impressions of Eastern Kentucky in the last 2 years?
Well, I love the mountain area. Growing up in North Alabama and having a big brother that would drag me all over Tennessee and Kentucky, we drove up here as teenagers quite a few times. So love the mountain area from many, many years ago. So glad to be here.
Let's talk a little bit about your campuses. You're based in Cumberland. You both work out of Cumberland, but you have several other campuses. Tell me about those.
Yes, we do. We actually have 5 campuses. We serve 4 counties. We serve Knox County, Bell County, Harlan County, and Letcher County. And we have campuses, we have the Middlesboro campus in Bell County, the Pineville campus in Bell County, the Harlan campus in Harlan County, the Cumberland campus in Harlan County, and then of course the Whitesburg campus here in Letcher County.
Okay. Brandon, tell me a little bit about your new role at the college. You've only been on the job for a couple months, I guess.
Yeah, and it was an interesting challenge right off the bat because I knew kind of going into it what I was going to be doing, but you know, when you've been doing something for so long, I'd been here at YMT for 8 years, it was a new challenge. But what I do now, primarily, I'm in charge of all of the college's social media. At the time being, we are working on getting our broadcast program revised. We have a TV studio that is a work in progress. We're working on getting that re-going again that we had for several years ago, and kind of help to promote the college. I work with Tiffany Scott. She's the director of marketing and PR. We work together to make sure that people know what Southeast is all about, what we have to offer, and things that are going on. And let people know that Southeast is just not for students, faculty, and staff. It's a part of the communities we serve as well.
Well, I know you were heavily involved in social media here at YMT. So how is it playing a role in attracting new students to the college?
Big role. We have really expanded our reach on social media this year. For the fall semester, I started back on July 1st. We have generated a lot of interest with students. There's been a lot of research on at the system office level because Southeast is part of a larger system, Kentucky Community and Technical College System, KCTCS, and there's a lot of research that shows social media and websites are where students are going now to learn new information about colleges, prospective colleges. So we've ramped up our efforts on both those ends to get more knowledge out about the programs we offer. Social media has become a great tool in getting students more involved, current students, and getting prospective students to be like, hey, Southeast really is an interesting place, a cool place to be. So we're getting a lot of attention that way. We've increased our presence tenfold on social media since we started. So it's playing a big factor because, as you well know, communication is changing. The way we communicate with people, especially younger people, is really changing, and social media is a big part of that.
I'm wondering, since several of your campuses are near other states, do you get a lot of students from across the border, Tennessee, Virginia?
We do. We get quite a few students from Virginia and Tennessee, particularly to our Middlesboro campus and our Whitesburg campuses. Yes.
Well, Dr. Moore, I was going to ask you about an article that came out over the weekend suggesting that the state's improving economy is actually causing declines in community college enrollment, leading to some staff reductions and budget cuts. Are you seeing that at Southeast?
Well, actually we are, and that's really not a bad thing. As I shared with you earlier, I've had the opportunity to work in Texas as well as Oregon, and you see that trend nationwide. Whenever economy improves, people go back to work, which is really what we're training folks to do, is to get a good job and go to work. So when students have the opportunity to go to work and get a job and take care of their families, then that's really what we want them to do. And that may mean a reduction in enrollment, but we're continually working to build that enrollment back.
Have you had to make budget cuts and staff reductions at Southeast?
We've had to make a few, but I'll share with you that I run a pretty tight ship, and we watch our pennies and our dollars, whether enrollment is good, bad, whatever. We watch our money very, very close.
Tell me about some of the partnerships you have, not only with universities, but with high schools as well.
Right. We are building our dual credit program, which is a program where juniors and seniors at high schools can actually take classes at their high schools. It's the dual credit program. And we're building that so that way we get students used to being in a college class. That way they make a smoother transition to either our college or to the university of their choice. Preferably they'd come to our college, you know, and finish up their first 2 years before transferring. It's a much better financial deal if they take that route. But yes, we're building those. Another thing too that we've just started this year with our dual credit classes at the high school level is we have opened up our Blackboard system. So that way the classes are actually hybrid classes, and part of their education they get through the online Blackboard system. So that's been a real benefit for those students to learn that online piece before graduating from high school.
And tell me about maybe some of the programs you're offering that folks might not be aware of.
Well, we have all types of programs, transfer programs, general education programs, so that way students can get their first 2 years of general education and then transfer on to the university to finish up the second 2 years in whichever program of study they would like to finish up in. Good example there, Brandon started out at Southeast and finished up at Morehead State in communications. We have the same type of programs with EKU. We have a criminal justice program where students complete their first 2 years with us and then transfer to EKU. Also, aviation technology partnership with EKU. We have a number of programs with Morehead State and then quite a few with UK as well. We're developing more engineering programs to where students will transfer straight into UK, so we're excited about those as well.
Brandon, you actually kind of went back home because you went to Southeast. Tell me about your experience there.
Absolutely.
Years ago.
And to add what Dr. Moore was saying, you really can't beat a community college education to start out, because a lot of folks, and myself, I was included in this, I was looking at Western when I first got into it. I looked at Morehead when I first got into going to college many, many years ago. But 2 years, you get all your general education requirements that you're going to have at a four-year university anyway, and it's a whole lot cheaper. You get that associate degree, it transfers. All those classes go with you, so you're not starting over from scratch. But it is going home for me, literally and figuratively, because from Harlan County, born and raised, from Cumberland specifically. So it's been a great thing for me to go back to where it all started. Southeast was the first place I was ever in front of a green screen, in front of a weather wall. Southeast was the first place I ever read a news story on air. Southeast was the first place that I ever kind of got my toe into the waters of journalism. You know, I was the editor of the student newspaper and worked with the broadcasting program, which I really hope we can get going fairly soon again, because it was a great program and willing to work with you all, ready to work with you all at WYMT and a lot of things. But it's been such a great thing knowing that what Southeast does to get people ready for the job market, to get people ready to go on to the next chapter in their lives. And I tell you what, YMT to me was the biggest family in a professional environment and personal too that I've ever known. Southeast is just like that. It's people who care about students. It's faculty and staff that genuinely care about students and what happens to them.
And you may have seen the weather camera we have down at Southeast, and Brandon's responsible for that. And isn't that your office view?
That's right out of my office.
You got a pretty good one.
Exactly. I was looking around one day and I was like, where can I put this? Oh, there you go. So we just stuck it in the office window, and hopefully more to come here for too long.
Yeah, hopefully we're going to get more of those.
Steve, I have to brag a minute.
Okay.
I was so fortunate to have Tiffany Scott working in our PR department. And since I came to Southeast, she'd been telling me about the amazing Brandon, and she had known Brandon just about all of her life. And so we're very, very fortunate. It's wonderful as the president of the college to be able to hire and have the A team in PR. So I'm so very proud to have both of them on our staff. And it's about getting the word out and communicating to our students, our faculty and staff internally, but also to communicate widely to our communities that we serve. And it really is too much when you're covering 5 campuses in 4 counties. Is too much for one person. So I gave in to Tiffany, and so happy to be able to hire Brandon and bring him onto our staff. And we consider WYMT part of our family as well. So,
well, thank you.
Yeah, very proud.
One thing I wanted to talk about that's going on your Middlesboro campus, it's called the Build Smart program. What can you tell me about that?
Yes. Well, last legislative session, the General Assembly gave KCTCS the opportunity to sell bonds, a $200 million building and planning projects for all 16 colleges in the state in KCTCS. Not all 16 colleges actually got buildings. A few of the colleges got relatively small projects, which were $500,000 planning projects. This $200 million statewide, the debt service on that will come from an $8 per credit hour fee for all of the students in KCTCS. Well, Southeast was very, very fortunate in that we received a $10 million building project. And the legislature said, you need to build this building on the Middlesboro campus. It helps all 5 of our campuses, but they designated that it would be there. So it's a $10 million building project. The Commonwealth will provide $7.5 million of that project. We have to raise our $2.5 locally for that project. We've been in the design phase. We've completed phase A and B, and hopefully we'll have the rest of our $2.5 million secured in donations and pledges by December. So we're very, very excited about that. It will help all of our students at Southeast.
Any idea yet when you expect it to be built?
Hopefully it will be finished by the spring of 18.
Okay.
That's what we're really hoping.
And Steve, a big thing on that, with that one, to further elaborate on what Dr. Moore was saying, it's going to help us to free up some space eventually on our Pineville campus, which will help us expand existing programs, which will help us get even further out there into recruiting what folks need to get into the job force. What they're going to be needing as technology evolves.
Brandon, you've already mentioned that you hope to revitalize the broadcasting program. What all is that going to entail?
Well, in 2000, they built, Southeast did, a $1.2 billion or $1.2 million studio. State of the art at the time. It was basically a mini version of WYMT. To be real honest about it, it's got chroma key. It had studio cameras, a light grid that would be seen like you would see here, and a fully broadcasting, fully functional broadcast center. So the plan is we're going to hopefully work with some partners. LMU has agreed to help us. Lincoln Memorial University, YMT has agreed to help us to try to get things back up and running. And basically what we would like to do is there are a lot of folks interested in this area and how broadcasting works, how journalism, what you have to do to become a journalist. So what our hope is, besides Morehead State and a little bit at UPike, there is no local program in the college for broadcasters. So we're hoping we can get our program back online, and we can be a pipeline for the journalism industry and for for journalists in general to come and learn, to come and see how a broadcast works, what you have to put into a broadcast, how do you tell good stories, how do you be ethically correct, and you get all your facts straight. So we're hoping to get that up and running. In the next 6 to 8 months, we're hoping to get into basic operations. We're already on local cable in Cumberland, Benham, and Lynch, and hopefully planning on expanding that into hopefully all 3 or even 4 of our service counties in the next couple of years. And hopefully we can get on board with start showcasing to what we can offer to the community, not only with our programs inside of our broadcast center, but our programs in general. Maybe we could videotape a nursing class, and we could show that to the community. You know, this is how we train. We could do local things like maybe city council meetings eventually. So hopefully it's going to become a community-oriented channel that we can spread our message out to the world.
And being news director, that's music to my ears, because you know, maybe after they're finished, they'll come work for us. You know, we always like to hire local people because they tend to stay here longer, like Brandon Robinson. So it's good to hear you get that back up and going. Dr. Moore, what are your main goals moving forward in the next few years at Southeast?
Well, one of the main goals, again, is to better communicate within our institution and better communicate in our service area. That's one thing that I noted when I came to Southeast to interview, is that when I went through the communities, I didn't see anything that told me that there was a college there or that there was an amazing campus in their neighborhood. So many people in our areas don't realize the resource that they've got right there in their backyards. The Whitesburg campus has been in existence nearly 20 years. Started out with less than 200 students. We now have this fall 500 students, and all of our campuses have actually grown. We mentioned Middlesboro a few minutes ago. Middlesboro campus started out roughly 20 years ago with 200 students. We have 1,000 students on that campus this term, this fall term. And so we're growing. So I wanted to really bridge the gap between the college and the community and have the opportunity to bring the communities onto campus and show them all the resources that we have for them.
What do you think the biggest challenge is going to be at Southeast moving forward in the next few years?
Well, I came here 2 years ago. The big challenge was the decline of the coal industry, the loss of so much in this area. This area has been so devastating. I know I don't have to you know, make that case to you. But we have the opportunity to build back. So money is very tight, but that doesn't mean that we can't still, all of us work together to bring about an increase in economic development and to bring that along. And I believe that the college is a very large partner in growing economic development in our communities.
Well, speaking of economic development, I know you had a presence at the SOAR broadband announcement recently. I know you were there.
Yes.
Were you there too?
I actually was fundraising that day.
Okay. I remember
but I've
seeing
been
Brandon.
to all the rest of them. That's the only one I've missed.
Okay. Well,
but Brandon was there.
Obviously, that was a huge announcement about
Yes.
broadband, and it goes back to communication. What are your thoughts on the SOAR initiative overall? What they're trying to do?
It's amazing, and it's so badly needed right now, because what SOAR does is it's an initiative that brings us all together. What we're doing at the college is we're working in the communities to prepare for the broadband that's coming in. Once it's here, we need to have already done our work to connect up to it. So we want to be sitting here waiting for them to come down the road and bring us the broadband. We want to be where we can connect up to it right away. So, but SOAR has brought us all together. It's when you look for funding or when you look for opportunities to bring resources in from the nation and from the world, you have to have a piece that they can plug into. And SOAR provides that. It provides the opportunity, the discussion, the framework for outside resources to plug into our area, because the nation and the world sees the situation that we're in with the loss of the coal industry, and they want to help. So SOAR provides that opportunity for them to plug in and work with us.
What were your thoughts, Brand, as you listened to the broadband announcement?
You know, I'll be real honest about SOAR. In the beginning, I was typical Eastern Kentucky, and they're talking this big talk, and nothing will ever happen.
Oh, a lot of people thought that.
Exactly, and you're thinking, they're just going to have a bunch of meetings. But I knew once the governor and Congressman Rogers got on board, these are two heavyweights that can get things done. So I thought, okay, I'll give it a listen. I'll see what's going on here. The more that I've listened and I've read about and followed it, I do believe this is something that's really going to make a big difference in Eastern Kentucky. I really do, especially once the broadband connection comes in here. You hear all the time, especially when it comes to education, how far behind that we could eventually get because we don't have the broadband for students to continue learning, even at home. And we have good internet on our college campuses, but once you get home, you could be on dial-up. I mean, it really could be that bad.
There are people still on dial-up you know about.
Exactly.
Incredible.
Yes.
This is 2015,
Yeah.
and people in the mountains are still on dial-up when they're putting these huge fiber lines in these big cities. So that's going to be the key. That's going to be the key. And I think once this really comes through and starts to make an impact, you're going to notice that Eastern Kentucky is really going to open up to the world quickly in terms of people seeing what we're about as a culture and as a community, and what it can do not only for education and communications, but for economic development and for the mountains as a whole.
We've talked about enrollment numbers a little bit. Where they stand right now, are you happy with those?
Oh, I'm never happy. I'm never happy with. There are always students in high school. There are always students who just finished high school. There are many. I was a non-traditional student coming back and finishing my education later. There are plenty of non-traditional students out there who maybe were in the coal industry, who have lost their jobs, and now they look to retrain. So we can never ever do enough of outreach to these folks to say, hey, come to our environment, let us help you with your general education requirements. Maybe there's some short-term training. We're working on building a short-term training for the IT industry. Hopefully have that up and running in the spring. But there's always great opportunity for us to network with the workforce to determine what training they need of the workforce, and then to bring students, potential students, into our environment and say, hey, education will benefit you. You will end up making more money if you have an education, just an associate's degree. And not only will you benefit, our communities will benefit, but your families for generations will benefit. So,
are you seeing more non-traditional students enroll, like laid-off coal miners?
We thought that we would, but in the few years that I've been here, and that I came, right when the coal industry really was failing. So in my short tenure here, there's not been a drastic difference. We had them coming in 2 years ago, and they're still coming to us. Mm-hmm. Right.
Brandon, I have to ask you if you miss us yet, and I know you're still staying involved with weather, even at Southeast a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, this is my home for 8 years. I can't say, I'll see you later, never come back. But I have missed it. I tell you, and I've talked to you about this before. The time I think that I've missed it the most since I've been gone, unfortunately, was when we had the devastation over in Johnson County with the flooding, and that was the first major weather event that I hadn't worked. And when you work in weather and you work here at YMT for so long, your heart goes out to people who are affected by disasters like that. And you and I have worked a lot of those together, unfortunately, over the years, and it was odd not to be in this weather center here when that was going on. But I'm glad to have the new opportunity. I think it's going to be a fantastic thing, especially as we build the partnership between WYMT and Southeast. And you all sure going to let me dab a little bit, so you might see me from time to time on
You're
the
coming
screen.
Back when? A week or two?
A couple of weeks, yeah. I'm coming back to do an 11 o'clock broadcast, so I'll see you then. But the big thing that I want to touch on too, Steve, is the fact that things have changed a lot with our communities, and colleges now, including Southeast, are becoming community meccas. This is the place you go for the arts, to see plays and theater. This is the place you go to gather. This is the place that you go to learn, and it's where everybody's coming together. We don't have these huge convention centers or meeting centers, so a lot of things go on now on your college campuses.
Sort of like what high schools used to be before.
Exactly, consolidation.
You're right.
Right, and so colleges are now taking the role of that, and it's great to see that, and just looking forward to more awesome things to come.
You always hear when folks talk about college tuition, and community college, I know, is more affordable than, say, going to a university. But what are you trying to do to keep those costs down?
Well, we work to hire the very best, very capable individuals, and Tiffany and Brandon will tell you both that they wear many hats. So we try to hire people who want to reach out, are willing to wear many hats, and do whatever it takes. So personnel costs are generally your highest cost. So we are really a family of 5 campuses, and at any time you may find the same, you may find an employee on 2 or 3 different campuses in one day. I mean, we travel around a lot. We keep the roads hot. So that's probably the biggest thing. But I wanted to share too that even though we're growing, you know, enrollment is down a little bit right now, but overall we're on a growth trajectory. Absolutely, because what we do for the community and the fact that the community needs us to train workforce. But I wanted to go ahead before I forget is to let you know that even though we've already started our fall term, we have a mini-mester that will begin right before Halloween. It will finish up right before Christmas. So it's our 8-week mini-mester term. And so if students wanted to take classes, or maybe they didn't get the classes that they wanted, or maybe it's a community member that says, you know, it's fall and football season and maybe I do want to take a class, then we'll be happy to fast track them in enrollment, registration, and if, you know, just take one class in the 8-week term. We'd love to have them.
All right. We only have about a minute left, so I'll ask both of you in 30 seconds to tell me why students should choose Southeast. Brandon, I'll start with you.
There's a lot of reasons, and I'll try to get this really quick for you. But as a Southeast grad, I can say the experiences that I had at Southeast on a much smaller level, you're not in a class with 400 other kids, you're not in a big lecture hall. That experience, because we're used to down home knowing each other, we just really are around the mountains. So that experience was fantastic. The fact that you can pay so much less to get the same basics that you're going to have to get at a university. And now we're expanding so much with our programs. These 2+2 deals are so great. You can start out at Southeast, sometimes even finish at Southeast through another college. So that's a great thing too. So it is affordable. It really is affordable, more so than people think. We have campuses everywhere, it seems like, and you know, you can't say, oh, we can't find a place to go, we can't find a convenient place to go. It's just a great atmosphere, great place to be, great faculty and staff. So, excuse me, come see us and come see what it's all about.
Dr. Moore?
I can honestly tell you, Steve, that from my position all the way through our entire college, every single one of us are totally committed to student success. So when they come, they may run into some challenges or issues along the way, but every single one of us are dedicated to each and every student's success as they work towards their educational goals.
All right. Dr. Moore, thank you. Brandon,
thank
as
you.
always, thank you. We'll see you next time on Issues and Answers.